Well, hello there, and welcome to the Backstage Pass. It is that time of week to have a little fun with some rubber and some ink and a bunch of other fun accessories, right? Well, today is my very first mashup class. And so many of you have a kit for this because you earned it by signing up for my last Studio Ink Spots camp. If you signed up for option 1 or 2, you were also sent a Use It Up kit, and I'll be showing that in a minute. But now that I have a couple of viewers here, hello Jacqueline. Anybody else want to say hello? That name came up. I'm not quite sure who else is watching, but you are my cue once I see somebody pop on to say, good Thursday morning and welcome to this week's stamp class. As I mentioned, kind of in the cold open there, that this is our first mashup class. What is a mashup class, you ask? It's simple. I'm taking two products that aren't grouped together in the catalog or the online exclusives, and I'm just bringing the two together because I see how they could be connected. And so today's mashup is the Everyday Happiness Designer Series paper and the Penciled Pear Stamp Set. So good times here. So I've got about 1,000 different things here that says Jacqueline Beretis is watching. I've got like 4 of them. So somebody else is too, because there's 5 of you on. Say hello so that those comments will start to populate and we can have fun doing a little bit of chatting. So I have to tell you, so much has happened since the 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we had, I had an upstyle class. And then last week, I was actually in Raleigh, North Carolina for Stampin' Up's on stage. And so it was so fun. Friday night, we got together, several of us, and had dinner. So that was kind of fun to meet you in person. It was good to just, meet some people. I met Chris Robertson, Jean Nielsen, got to see Marcia and Barbara again. That's always a delight to chat with those two. But good times for sure. What happened the night before I left when I'm frantically trying to get ready? Luna had a litter of puppies. She had our biggest litter to date. So usually they're around 3, 4, or 5. She had 7 puppies, and she's teeny tiny. She's about 13 pounds. And so for her to have that many dogs, you should have seen her the day that she was so waddling like a big round pregnant lady. I mean, it was so funny, poor thing, but they are cute. When I got home, I had to loosen all their collars. They were already too tight. So in just those 5 days I was gone, they grew so much. I'm funny and can't talk right. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and flip the camera view here, and we are gonna begin with a little bit of business and then a whole lot of fun stamping. All right, so here we go. Now here comes the hand, and I'm actually gonna drag this camera forward. Let's see what we can do here. And there's my ceiling, so let's flip. Ugh. There we go. All right. So for today, this is our mashup class. We'll get to that in just a minute. Business of the hour here. Let's see. Next week's class will feature the Delightful Wishes bundle. You're going to bring that, and I'm going to bring the rest of the sweet collection. So many of you have signed up. This class, the kits are sold out. I do not have any more kits, but you might have some of this stuff at home. And if you want to make your own kit, the PDF is available. It's $17, and that you can find on my blog. Speaking of my blog, I had to revamp some things on there, but if you scroll down just a little bit past the first article, there will be a thing that says never miss a post. Sign up for that. And my posts that have all of these details, I don't post that often, but they will come to your email on Sundays. So anyhow, that is the next class. I hope you'll join me for that. Kits will mail out Saturday morning. All right. So that's our class, and that's next week's technique time, the biggest of the month, right? my favorite of the month. And then coming up, we have, well, let's see. I'm missing an announcement for, sorry, I put the wrong sign up for this. It's because it's yellow. So this is actually next week. It is not Paper Pumpkin. It is the Floral Wishes. I don't know where the ad went for it. Oh, well, you get the idea. This is Paper Pumpkin in 2 weeks. And this is a great kit, you guys. Refills are coming soon. And if you really like it, get your hands on them really fast. Keep a lookout for them. All right. In April, we will also do another mashup class of two different products. And so I will be bringing in the Everyday Arches. I'm not going to do the stamp set from Everyday Arches. I'm going to do the Designer Series paper, the gems, and the arch dies. And I am going to combine it with Adventurous Sky. So this came out in last year's catalog. It has great dies, but I just thought, you know, this is called Everyday Skies. So it's all these skies prints. And so wouldn't it be perfect with this? So this to me is a very sensible and easy mashup. So we're going to do that in April. So if you have those things, look for that. I think you might enjoy it. Also in April, Use It Up. Many of you have earned this Use It Up kit. And so this Use It Up kit, it will have some different papers and things in it. But I'm going to feature the Spring Corners stamp set and dies. So this is kind of a cool little set that has some hidden benefits and features. So we'll take a deep dive into that in April. That's the 17th. And then, technique time for April is going to be so cool. Excuse me, I'm coming off of having something really weird, some bronchial type thing. So that's why if I cough, I apologize. But for April's class, we are going to do our technique time based around the Brightest Birthday Kits collection. And it's so fun because it's going to have everything you need plus my kit, because we'll be upstyling this, right? So it has an ink spot. You'll need some other ink pads as well, but your stamp set will be right in there. So go ahead and purchase yourself the kit and then purchase my class packet, which will go along with this. And I will give you just a little bit of a sneak say, not a sneak peek, because I don't have it out. I will also be including in my kit that I packed for you the Brightest Birthday, or the Birthday Bash, the one with the bags and then the gift card packaging. So you'll have both kits to combine and work together. You won't have a full kit, you'll have a half kit of that other kit. But it's going to be a really cool, it's going to be a fun technique time. I've never used a kit for technique time, so this will be something new. But hey, we got to try new things, right? Just like today is a new class style of the mashup. And then I have one last announcement for you guys. And that is, I have an Heirloom Arrangements. Oh, there's today's kit, or next week's. I found the ad, sorry. A little late. Here is the Heirloom Arrangements. This is coming up. Sorry, folks, 2 seconds. I had to drink something or I was going to have a cough attack. And ask Julie Beltramo. They're not pretty. Okay, so Heirloom Arrangements. This is another kit. This is a beautiful kit. And I was approached by a couple of you if I was going to do anything with this. And then once I studied it more closely, I'm like, ooh, there's a lot of stuff in here. And so we are going to make a Studio Ink Spots mini camp with this. There will be 2 options available. There will be a full kit that will have all your class packets and all the extra fun swag and stuff, and the PDF version. So that I need to get some feedback from you guys. So I originally was going to do the 24th of May, and somebody pointed out that that was Memorial Day weekend. I usually think of Memorial Day weekend a little bit later, but anyhow, so let me know, is it better to do it on the 17th or the 24th? It will be a full Saturday. And so it will be a morning session and an afternoon session. And my goal is to use up every piece in that kit, and we are going to make some beautiful projects. So let me know your thoughts about that one and what you want to do, what we should do timing wise for that. All right, so that's the business of the hour coming up. Today, it's all about bringing together the Everyday Happiness Designer Series paper and Penciled Pear. So here's the kit. You may have seen this. It was in your package if you had received something in the mail from me for the our last camp. I've already forgotten. Wildflower birthday. That was a fun camp. I really, really enjoyed that one. I hope you did too. Great product, fun times. Okay, so we are going to use this kit today. And usually I include this here because it helps with the packaging and keeping things settled. But today, some of you have kind of this golden color and some of you have a brown color. Both of them are perfect. I'm going to use it today. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use this. You know, I know it's not a Stampin' Up! Product, but I just think it works good. We're going to use it up. So in the spirit of use it up, we will use that. So keep that nearby. And then I also included a little palette for you. So we are, and that was kind of a hint towards, we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring. So I do have some ink refills on hand that are in the colors of the paper. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But let's open up and see what's in here. I'm just going to bring the entire pack out for now. And you have a smalls bag, set that aside. We have some cardstocks here. And we also have, this is the Everyday Happiness Designer Series paper. Now, this paper has half as many prints, but twice as many of each piece. So it's still a 12-piece pack. But instead of getting 2 of each, you get 4 of each. So it's kind of nice. So let's go over the prints here. So there's this one. I think this is cool. You know me, I love wild wheat. So, you know, it's a color I'm going to use. Look how fun this is. We're not going to use this print today, but you'll have some extra and we'll be able to use that. But I do think this is fun. There is a stamp set that goes with this, and you'll find this line in the scrapbooking brochure. You can also find it in the online, if you just go online, shop products, and then go to scrapbooking, you'll find stuff. Okay, or go to Designer Series paper and you'll find the paper. All right, here's another pattern. I love the Lost Lagoon to the wild wheat to the beige. And look at this fun print. Okay, and everybody loves a good gingham in Lost Lagoon. And here's the back side, kind of a linen-y wild wheat. So those are the Everyday Happiness papers. And to me, I could see, and maybe not quite all of this paper, but I just could see how the vibe fit this penciled pear. And so that's why I've paired, no pun on words there, why I've paired these together. All right, so let's look at what else we have in here. We also have some pecan pie center stripe ribbon. I had lots of that, so we're using that up. And we have some Fluid 100 watercolor paper pieces. All right, so we'll be using that as well. Told you we're going to do some watercolor. Let's see. For our first project, our first card, let's dive in and jump into my favorite color. We're going to have to say goodbye to my favorite color. This is one of the 2023-2025, did I say that right? Yeah, in colors. And so this goes away. It retires at the end of April. So speak now or forever hold your peace. Get enough of the enough of the wild wheat paper. Get your ink refill, whatever you'd like, so that you have that, because it is going to be discontinued. So we're going to use that. And we're also going to use this piece of Designer Series paper. And so I'll set this aside. We'll also be using some of our watercolor paper. So we're going to trim this down to be a certain size. Nope, we're not going to trim this one down. We're going to stamp on it. I'm going to go back to my pieces. There's one more piece of cardstock in here that I want. You have a piece of Very Vanilla. Grab that piece of Very Vanilla. This is the one we're going to be trimming down. All right. And so we're going to, let me see here. I have the wrong notes on the wrong piece of paper. All right. So this piece, get my act together, right? This piece, so just FYI, you guys, comments are not showing up. So if you're chatting amongst yourselves, I feel left out, but that's because Facebook just doesn't want to let me see the comments right now. It just keeps telling me all these people are watching, and it's putting your name up 4 and 5 times. It's really weird. I've never seen that before. So hello to all of you. I hope you're having a great spring. All right, so I'm going to trim this piece down. I want it to be 4 1/4. Okay, so it is 4 1/4, but I only need a portion of this. So I'm going to trim it down to 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, so there's my piece. Save that. You never know when we're going to use it again. So this piece here, we're going to work on this first. No, I've changed my mind. We're going to work on the watercolor first because that will need a little bit of time to dry. So to me, the Saddle Brown Stays On is perfect for this color palette here and for the Penciled Pear because I need some waterproof ink. So I'm using the Saddle Brown and the large pear image. Here's the large pear image. Okay. So I'm just going to stamp this. And sometimes I even like to, on a larger stamp like this, just really tap around. And I'm just going to stamp right in the corner here. Okay. So like Jacqueline, your name has now popped up as is watching about 12 times. So kind of weird. Not sure what Facebook is doing. All right. I am also going to stamp that image again. I'm going to stamp it twice on my paper here. So I'm going to stamp it full strength. Bring this back in. And I'm going to stamp it kind of over here to the side just a little bit. And I'm a little higher than lower, if that makes sense. So I'm not quite in the center. Okay. And then what I want to do is, let me find a piece of scratch paper. Get a piece of scratch paper in here. I'm going to re-ink, and I'm not going to stamp off fully, but I want it to be a little lighter. And you've seen me do this many times, and that is I'm just going to let the weight of the block remove some of that ink. Okay, so it just took off some. And then I'm going to stamp the second one a little bit higher and a little bit crooked. Right over top. Okay? And so it's going to give the illusion of it being a little further back. All right, so there's my second pair. And now we're going to get into some fun here. And that is the fun of watercolor. And I do not claim to be a pro at watercolor, but I do have some fun doing it. And I'm pretty good at allowing the water to do the work. So I have an aqua painter here, and I have some re-inkers. So I have Wild Wheat, of course. I have Lost Lagoon, Old Olive, and Crushed Curry. Now, when you put these down in your watercolor tray, I kid you not, they all look the exact same. So there's Crushed Curry. Here goes Wild Wheat. And why is it that some re-inkers come out easy and some are hard? But there's Wild Wheat. And I actually put way more ink in there than what I really need. Then I'm going to do Old Olive. No order here. It's just an order that I remember. And I'm kind of lining them up to the side in the same order. But once you start touching them with your aqua painter and adding some water, you'll see what color they are. And there was the Lost Lagoon. So I'm going to use these throughout today. So I'm going to start, and I have water in a cup here nearby. That is my preferred way of, you know, I don't like to squeeze the barrel here. I'd rather just get my water from there. So when I said I'm going to allow, let me kind of move this off to the side just a little bit. I'm going to allow the water to do the work. So to start that, I'm just going to paint my watercolor paper here. And then I'm going to pull in a little bit of the green. And I'm just going to touch the water and let the water carry the color. And as I keep adding more, it'll push it further down the leaf. Okay? So I'm just letting that water move that. And then I'll let that dry, or I'll blot it in a minute, and I'll come back and kind of add some more color. The beauty of using the watercolor paper is you can layer on, like you can just keep loading color on, layer after layer. So I'm just with water painting the pear. Okay, and I'm going to start with a little crushed curry here and just give, I mean, just that alone right there, I'm done. I mean, I really feel like that's cool and it's pretty and I love it. Okay, now never fear if you go outside of the lines, you can blot and clean it up just like that, but we're going to be cutting this out, so it doesn't really matter. Now I have a light spot right here in the middle. I like that. That's a good thing. That's a winner in my book. It just kind of happened because I was working at adding the color to the outside and it carried in, but not right to there. Okay, here I come in. I'm going to come in with a little wild wheat, and I'm just going to kind of work these sides and maybe into that shadow, that crosshatch. And we'll come down this side. Okay. Just letting the water do the work. And I think I'm going to let that just sit for a second, because if I blot it, it's going to remove a lot of color, but I kind of want that color to sink in there, and then I'm going to come in and add some more layers of color. While that's going, we're going to do the same thing over here, okay? I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to be lighter handed with my water this time. I'm just going to do a nice easy layer of Old Olive, and I am not super wet here because this is very vanilla cardstock. And so if I do it too heavy handed, then it's going to be, it's just going to get really, really warped. All right. So just a little lighter weight. You know, you can do more with that Fluid 100 than you can with this. In fact, if you overdo this, it will pill. I will say thick basic white. It's not this. You can't do what you can do with Fluid 100, but you can do a little bit more than with just basic white. Okay. All right. So let's do the same thing. Let's add a little crushed curry to this pear. And I'm just going to do a really light wash on this one. Okay. Not too much. In fact, I will probably blot it just because I don't want it to overly curl my paper. And now I'm going to put just a little bit of wild wheat in there just to bring in my focal color, just to carry that through a little bit, even if it's subtle. Kind of get these sides. Okay. Okay, and last, I'm going to pull in some Old Olive into the pear. Okay, so this is just kind of a nice, ripe Bosque pear. That's my favorite. Just have some fun adding some color here and there. All right. Now with my leaves here, I think I'm going to come in and just a teeny bit. Remember, I have Lost Lagoon over here. I'm going to do just a touch. I don't want it to take over. I just want there to be a little bit of some more color in there, because when you start layering in a second color, it just really starts to add some depth. So I just did little touches of it here and there. So I'm going to let this dry. I do have my heat tool out. I hope to not have to use it today, but I am going to kind of blot that just a little bit. It was pretty dry already, but you can see from the back where it's most wet. And the reason I kind of want to control this is so that I don't have a lot of curling. All right, so let's set that one aside. Let's bring this one back. And let's blot this one, see where we're at. See how that removes just a little bit of the color. It's not quite as intense as it was. You might not have seen that. But now I'm going to start doing the same thing. I'm going to start layering in a little bit more Old Olive. Now that we've kind of based our pear in, I'm going to start adding in some Old Olive just to kind of bring in some pear color here. But I really wanted that underlying color in this to be that crushed curry, Old Olive. I'm not crushed curry, but crushed curry and wild wheat. So I'm really going to kind of layer this color up on all these hash marks. Okay, because it's contoured, right? The pear is round, and so this front is where it's going to catch the most light, and then our shadows will be further back here. Again, if you go outside the lines, no worry. We're going to be cutting this out. So do you guys like to do watercolor? I really like this using an ink refill in that it's just easier, I think, than squeezing your lid or tapping a block and all that good stuff. Okay, just trying to layer some color. Got a water bubble there. Okay, a little more water so I can get just a little bit more, just so it kind of wiggles around. Okay, so you can see where I'm layering some color right in here. That's what I want to go for. And sometimes you don't know what's really happening until you keep adding some layers and letting the ones before dry. If you know what I mean, Vern. Who is Vern? Oops, I hear puppies crying. And we'll give just a little bit of a swoosh into, oh, nope, I don't need the stem. I'm going to be cutting the stem off. Okay, so I'm just looking. Now I think what I'd like to do is add just a little bit of that Lost Lagoon into the leaf here. Okay. The cool thing is, if you do something that you don't quite like, you can just kind of blot it out, add a little bit more color, wiggle some things around. Okay. My goal is I don't want the leaf to be the exact same color as the pear. Okay. So maybe I'll just kind of intensify this quite a bit more. Okay, there you have it. All right, I'm going to let those dry, and we'll come back to that in a minute. We set these aside. Let's do a little bit more. We'll just let that dry right there. Let's do a little bit more work on this right here. And what I want to do is I'm going to take my water painter here, and I'm going to take my lid. I'm going to bring back my, first off, I can see I'm going to tip this just to kind of, the water is pulling to the one side, so I'm just going to tip it just a little bit into, I don't know, can you see how I'm kind of chasing the water right there and moving it around? Yeah, so, just have fun doing that. All right, I'm going to grab some of the Lost Lagoon, okay? And let me just test this first. Instead of flicking from the inside of my lid, I am going to flick from the sides. Okay? And I don't know if you can see, there's the flicking from inside, And here's the flicking from, gosh, you can't really tell, but it's a much daintier, softer look. So let me get just a little bit more water going here. And let me just show you what it's like if I flick from the side. Maybe you can see them over here. They're just, the splatters are just a little softer. They're not quite so in your face. So let me get just a little bit more going, and you'll see them as I pick this up in just a second. But we're just going to give this a little splatter there. Hopefully you can kind of see right in there those little bits of splattering. And then this one here is a bigger splatter, so I'm just going to daub that one. And I am going to come in and do a little bit of splatter knocking with, this is bronze. And I like this bronze with the saddle brown. Okay, just a little bit, just to give us that dimension of 2 color. All right, so there is that, and I think that is just about to where I want it. We're going to do more with it in a minute, but for right now, while I'm letting this dry, and you can put your heat tool on this. However, when you put your heat tool, I like the way watercolor, when it dries naturally, it has a slightly different look than if you heat it with your heat tool. So that's why I'm trying to just let it dry and kind of work on some other pieces right now. I'm going to use my scissor here to rough up the edges. And I like this little technique of roughing up the edges because it just kind of mimics all these pencil lines from the drawing here of the pear. Okay. So just kind of bring some of those, you know, touches together by repeating these. Okay. Okay, so all 4 sides. Then we're going to mount this on a piece of the Designer Series paper. And by mounting it on another piece of paper, it will help with this little bit of curling and bubbling. You know, it'll just kind of tame that down just a little bit. All right, so let's work on that. So I'm going to use the striped paper here. And now you're thinking, oh my goodness, how does that striped paper go with it? Well, it really doesn't. But if you mat it up and we just have a little bit of it showing, we just get some hints of color here and there. And I love that approach when working with, I'm just trying to decide which way I want to go. I think I'll go this way. Because this vine doesn't quite fit the feel for me, but I like the colors. So you can see if I just do a nice tight layered mat, I just get a pop of color that's just going to bring some things to life. So this was 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. So this piece here, I'm going to trim to be 3 3/8. So let's get 3 3/8. Okay, save that. You could use it later. And then I want to be by 4 3/8. Just like that. Okay, so it's a nice, tight, matted layer. Okay, not a whole lot of color is going to show, but it's going to give us just a little bit of interest, a little bit of definition. So let's go ahead and glue that on. I think I'm going to use Seal, and hopefully I can get this down and get some of this bubbling, some of that pucker. Okay, so when you have watercolored and you've got paper that's been wet, you really do need to, even if the paper's not going to show, you do really want to get it matted down on something because it will make it look a lot smoother. Okay, so I like this 1/16 inch border all the way around by just cutting 1/8 of an inch wider, except I'm off. Ugh, can she move it? might not have been worth it. Okay, we wiggled it over somewhat. Okay, so there you go. Flattening that out. It's looking pretty good, nice and smooth. Now I'm going to bring my card base over. And so my layout isn't going to be very tricky here. It's just going to be a pretty straightforward layout. Let me just give this a nice crisp fold. I'm going to bring a pencil in here. And I'm going to set this off to the side, kind of a different layout rather than putting it smack in the middle. We'll do that in a minute. But I'm going to bring this way off to the side. I'm going to go a little bit higher than low, not much, you do you, but I'm going to draw a line right here. Just a line all the way up. Excuse me, gotta have water again. Sorry, it's that lingering whatever it was a couple weeks ago. Okay, so now with that, there is a really pretty image in this stamp set, this floral sprig here. I'm going to use, now you would think, because I want to stamp kind of tone on tone, you would think I was going to use wild wheat, but I'm not going to use wild wheat. I'm going to use basic beige. I like the basic beige on here. I think it's just kind of pretty. It's not going to matter what's up in here. It's going to be all about what's on this side. But we're just going to do a border of flowers here. And you can see I'm kind of tilting them each time. This can be a mess underneath. All right, I'm just going to kind of switch it up so we get a different angle of the flower. We'll put one more in here. Okay. And let's see. We'll just do a splash. I think what I'm going to do is take my cloth here and I'm just going to wipe some of this off. Okay. Just get that corner one more time. And I just want to get right in there. Okay, perfect. Because I didn't want it to go all the way to the top. But now when I bring this in, I just kind of have a pretty border over here on the side. So it's just going to be kind of pretty, just like I said. Okay, so this is going to go down with, I'm going to put this on with a little bit of seal. You could use glue, but it's what's handy right now. So, and I don't use it very often. I was stamping with Julie for oh, we're out. Okay, well, we're going to go back to the glue. But Julie likes to use the seal a lot. So I'm like, let me see what my friend likes to do here. Okay, so it's coming along kind of pretty. This is just kind of a different card. You know, sometimes we have a whole bunch of layers and stuff, but this one's just going to be, it's going to be a little bit more subtle. In your smalls bag, let's grab the pearls. These are iridescent basic pearls. I like those. And then we have a tag here. And you know what? For the life of me, I cannot remember the name of this punch, but it's a punch. This is in the, does make an appearance in the upcoming new catalog. But there are many punches that are not in the catalog, but they could very well end up in the online exclusives. So be sure you're always checking that. All right, what I want to do with this is crumb cake. It's not quite the color I want it to be. So I'm going to take some Lost Lagoon. I want it just a little bit, I want to tie it into my card just a little bit more. So I'm going to take a blending brush for Lost Lagoon. Get it good and inky, right? And let's knock off the harsh stuff so we're not getting craziness. And now I'm just going to lightly, very lightly, add a haze of Lost Lagoon and change the color up on this tag just a little bit. Okay? It just ever so slightly gives it a little bit of depth, for one, because I'm still seeing the crumb cake through. And I know you're probably not seeing the color, but it's there. And it's going to tie, it's going to relate back to my pears and leaves here in just a minute. A little bit better. Now that I've offloaded some of that ink, I can press just a little harder. All right, enough. And I'm going to bring in the saddle brown. And let's see, for a greeting for this one, let's use thanks for being you. I think that's a great saying. Sometimes some of the sayings in some of these stamp sets get a little bit, I don't know, bold or snarky. And I'm like, I would not say that to somebody. This is kind of rude. Okay, just so you know, comments still not showing. And I just keep getting a whole bunch of people are watching. Same people. So I really apologize. It's kind of a bummer. I like to see the comments. All right, so there's my greeting. And now I'm going to do just a little bit of splatter on this, just to soften it. Come on, go. There we go. Give it a little bit of dimension. And we'll get this ready with some dimensionals. So let's see here. We're just going to do one on the outside of each end. Okay. And this is actually going to come into here. But we have some fun stuff here. So I'm going to, I haven't decided if I'm going to do, let's do a full ribbon on this one. So I'm just going to imply a bow. So notice I haven't tied it. Okay, maybe just a little smaller. So look at all that ribbon we still have. And we'll just trim this. And we'll trim this. Okay. And I have some Seal Plus here. So I'm going to do a little Seal Plus right about here. And I'm going to do another row of it. And we'll just set that right in there. And if it's not quite right, I can pick it up and move it. But that's going to come in here. And it's not quite right. I want it just a little bit higher. Bring it in there. And then let me just do a little, you like that? Okay, kind of nice. That keeps it good and flat. If I need to make it a little smaller, I can bring it up just a little bit. Okay, I'll probably trim that. And then this is going to come in here. But before we do that, we've got to bring in our focal image. And that's what's going to bring this card to life. So I think we're dry enough. It's a little, it's damp, but it's not bad. I'm still going to be able to do it just fine. So I'm going to cut this out. Okay. And I'm just cutting right on that edge. And I'm just going to kind of come over to here, chop that. It's a lot easier once we take some of that bulk away. Now, I'm not going to trim the leaf or the stem. I am going to trim the leaf, but I'm not going to keep them together is what I should have said. So I'm just coming around here, cut the stem off. And I'm just coming down the side. We'll just come around the bottom here. I'm going to cut the pear off and leave the shadow behind. And I'm going to kind of mold this. It's still a little bit wet. So I'm just kind of like over my finger. I'm just giving it a little bit of a curl. I'm making it a little concave there. And I'm going to add some dimensionals. Here's my dimensionals. Just in the middle. Okay, because I want to kind of keep some of that curl. It's going to give us a little bit of an illusion. All right, and that's just going to go right on there, but it's rounded out. It's really cool looking in person. Look how pretty that is. And then we'll take this leaf, trim it. Okay, this isn't a hard fussy cut at all. And then instead of adding it there, I'm going to add it to be a third leaf. Okay? Just kind of change up the image just a little bit by adding another leaf. Okay, we'll get rid of that. It's trashiola. And I'm going to turn this leaf over, and it's going to kind of come in right about there. Or I could bring it even up like that if I wanted. It really just depends on what you want to do. But I think I'm going to bring it like so. Oh, Jacqueline, you're watching. I should go back in. They don't stay. But seriously, it's like the 5th one or more time that it's popped up with 3 or 4. All right, so I'm thinking I want to shrink this up just a little bit, folks. It's a little bit bigger than what I'd like it to be. So let me tighten that side. Okay. Oops, I need a little seal right here. There we go. Yeah, let me tighten this up just a little bit. The bow was getting like taking away from everything, so just a slight change. Oh, Jacqueline, you're watching. I don't know why. Maybe you're going off and on. Okay, so we'll shrink that up a little bit more. Let's add this one here, kind of bring it right into the pear. All right, and we will add some of those we got to add my leaf. And I'm actually going to glue the leaf so that it appears to be attached to the stem. Here's my glue. Let's see if it's going to work today. Probably not. We should make bets. I'm just going to have to do it like really hard on a piece. There we go. Now it's moving. Just have to kind of get that little part that's making it plugged. So I'm just doing a teeny bit of glue there on the end, and I'll kind of curl this, give it a little shape. And then we're just going to kind of tuck this right in there. Yeah, it hangs over the edge, but you can kind of angle it down just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to come in, and I'm going to come in with just a little bit of, this is light, Pretty Peacock, and I'm just going to do just a little bit on the pears. Okay, you could do dark peacock as well. Come in and do a little bit more of the brown. Do it to your, to your liking. And then of course she is here. She is always here. But this just to me really brings your watercoloring out, is to do just a little bit of Stella on some stuff here. And of course we'll hit that greeting. And even down this side where the wild wheat shows a little bit more. And we have finished. I have made a huge mess from side to side. It's all over the place. Okay. Oh, we forgot the pearls. We got to put the pearls on. Okay. So a few pearls just to have some fun here. I like these iridescent pearls. I think they're really, they're quite pretty. So I'm just going to do one there. And let's do another one. Let's see, let's do them up here. Well, never put your pearls down exactly where you think they're going to go. Don't push them down super hard because you never know if you're going to move them around. But that was a large and a large, and so here's another large. Okay. So if you want to add some pearls, I think this would be pretty too, because I debated whether or not I wanted to break these fibers down. So you might see it this way in the picture. You might see that I pull the fibers apart on this piece of thread just to kind of soften that. We'll see, we'll see. It's always a surprise. But the plan here was to kind of look at a new layout. I kind of like this one off to the side with a stamped border that you can barely see, but it's in there. And then doing some watercoloring. We'll go back to some watercoloring in just a minute here. So there is card number 1. All right. Card number 2, we're going to do a totally different watercolor technique. And so we're going to take our paper here, and let's see. we're going to cut our piece. Let me measure my piece over here. We're gonna cut a piece down, and it's gonna be 4 1/4, surprise, by 3 1/4. Same measurement as our last card, but it's gonna be a completely different look. All right, so let's just trim this piece. So it's already, all right, so let's do 3 1/4. Okay, save that, by 4 1/4. Okay, and we're gonna do some watercolor technique that's a little bit different than what we've done before. We're gonna use basic beige and wild wheat at first, and then we're gonna switch it up in a second here. You're also going to need your mini mister or a spritzer. And what I'm gonna do, let me close Lost Lagoon here before I set something in it, if you know what I mean. All right, so let me get my stamps and things ready, and then I'll spritz. So I'm gonna use the pear image. We've got the pears going across, and I think it has a different color ink than what I want right now. Okay, just gonna give that a quick clean. And we're gonna start with basic beige. And I'm gonna squirt my piece. I'm gonna squirt this off camera, okay? But I'm gonna fill the entire piece. I'm gonna mist it. I'm even gonna mist the back a little bit, okay? And that will help with curling. So get the whole thing spritzed. Okay? So you see that this side is really, really wet. And let's see, here's my piece of scratch paper I've been working on. I'm gonna stamp these pears in the wet paper right in the middle. I'm gonna go just a skosh higher than the middle. Okay, I'm letting that ink, and see how the ink is just kind of bleeding. That is what I'm going for. Okay, and I'm letting some of that water drip off. And it's not gonna leave a whole bunch of ink. It's just kind of, we're just kind of creating our own background. Okay, I'm just taking off some of the real wet stuff on the sides here. And I'm just gonna kind of tip that around so you can see where those pears were. It's just a layer of color. We're gonna build another layer of color on here in just a second. So I'm gonna give it another squirt. And this time I'm gonna stamp in wild wheat. And now you're really gonna see the color start to build. And I'm gonna try and put that right where I did the other one. It doesn't have to be exact. Okay, let the color kind of penetrate the fibers and let it kind of bleed. See how it's just kind of wicking? And then I have that beige that's wicked down the sides. So it's interesting. If it's not quite moving as much as you want, you can go ahead and spritz it again to really get it to move. See how it's coming down here? So we're just gonna kind of let that do its thing. And we're gonna have to do a whole bunch of other things because we wanna let this dry, okay? So I'm just taking off some of the water that's here on the sides. I don't wanna touch here because I kind of like the way that that's moving around, okay? That is part of what we're going for here. But where I have water that's really pooling, I'm just gonna kind of pull that away. Clear water, I should say. All right, so we'll just set this over here to the side, let it dry and do its magic while we work on a few other parts of this card. The bummer is it's all around this. So I might bring in my heat tool. But see how this is puddling and doing some cool stuff in here? I kind of like that. Okay, it's organic. Just going to kind of tap some of that away to kind of hurry the drying process. We're going to cut a piece of, if you go to your kit here, you have a piece of wild wheat here. And we should have called this a wild wheat class because we're going to get away from it in a minute here. But we're heavy on the wild wheat. Use crushed curry if you hate wild wheat. All right, so there's that. We're gonna trim this down. It's a little bigger than what I want. I want this piece to be, so this is it's 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. So I want to do 3 1/2. So we're just gonna trim this up a little bit. 3 1/2 by 4 1/2. Okay. And I'm gonna score at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So we'll put that at 1/8 of an inch. And I'm gonna get my cutting blade out of there. And so there's 1/8 of an inch. Got something in the track there. And we'll do 1/8 of an inch here. Just work yourself all the way around. And what I'm doing is creating a frame for my masterpiece. Like it's a real masterpiece. For my watercolor project. Okay. There's that. Okay. And so this piece is going to be the mat for this, but we can't do that just yet. So let's look at the rest of the papers we're going to need for this particular card. What we're going to do, we're going to build this one on the Pebbled Path card base here. So it's a 1/2 sheet of cardstock. So we can set these, we're going to use that. And this paper here, we are going to use this piece right there for this card. So we're going to use the gingham, okay? We're actually going to use, surprise, we're going to use the wild wheat side. Oh, I told you I love the color. It's in everything. It's in nature. It's everywhere in nature. Okay, so we'll let that dry still. Bringing this around. So the size on this one is going to be, it's going to be bigger than this. So this was 3 1/2. So we are going to do this. This one is going to be 4 inches because I don't want it just a quarter. We're going to do it at, let's do it at 4. And if it's too big, I'll trim it down. But we're going to go 4 by, and then this was 4 1/2. So it's going to be 4 by 5. Is that right? Let's see here. I had it written down and now I don't know where the Post-it went. Yep, let's do 4 by 5. Okay. And so that will be our mat. These are going to be going here. And it's going to layer onto here. And then we have this piece here. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but let's just trim this down to 5 1/2. Okay, so this is going to reach all the way across the card. Okay, and so this piece, I think it is 3 1/4 wide. So this is just going to stretch all the way across. Okay, so that's going to stretch across that base. I may end up trimming this 1/8 inch off of both sides. And then this one is going to go here, and this one's on top, and this one comes in here, but we still have to make this a masterpiece, and we're going to, but you have to make sure that this is good and dry, and you can't do it until it's dry, or you'll lose the definition of the image. So I'm going to open up my heat tool here. It's right here. Stampin' Up heat tool. Plug this in. And we'll have a little bit of noise for a second or two, but let's work on getting this so it's nice and dry so that because I'm going to stamp a greeting, and I'm also going to over stamp the pears again. So Jacqueline is watching. That note came up again. So as you hit this with your heat tool, you can see it starts to curl in the opposite direction, which this is pretty dry now. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and curl it the opposite direction. And then kind of hold it to get it to, uncurl. All right, so now I feel confident that if I stamp this, it's not gonna bleed. All right, so I'm going to stamp with Pebbled Path. Surprise, it's not wild wheat. I'm gonna stamp with Pebbled Path. This is our card base color. This also is another color that is retiring. Oh, this is a good basic. I'm not even cleaning the stamp because this is so much of a darker color. Now, I'm going to try and get this in a similar spot. It does not have to be exact. But there you have it. Kind of cool. I could have been down a little further on this side, but you get the idea. And then I'm going to stamp the greeting in Pretty Peacock. Yeah, I could have moved that down a little further. This would be a fun technique with your Stamparatus too, if you want to get it exact. But to me, it doesn't have to be totally exact. But what's fun is that the colors kind of, they're kind of, it's repeating the stems and whatnot. So you can see how I was just a little high, but that's okay. That's what you get for live. If I were doing it for real, I would have stamped it again. Now, I will tell you, the cool thing is I could go to the kitchen sink and wash this out and it would leave a haze of color, but I could start the process over again. That's the beauty of the watercolor paper. It can hold up to that. And when you start to layer all those colors on there, it's really quite interesting. I know I did some cards a while back and I did it in some lighter pastel colors and it looked kind of like a Monet. All right, so I'm going to add my greeting. I'm just going to kind of hug this pear over here. That's why I had it just a little bit higher. Again, I'm letting the ink really get into the fibers of this paper so it's nice and vibrant. So there's the It's Your Day. And then I'm going to take my twine that I packaged, or I could break down some of this. Let's see, I'm going to use the twine on this. So we could break this down and you could use just the white or just the gold or just the brown, whichever you have. But I'm just going to tie this around. Man, I really wish my pears were down just a skosh on this side. Then it would have been perfect. Oh, well. All right. So I think I'm going to, let's see. Do I want to take this apart? No, I'm just going to use it as it is. I know it's not a Stampin' Up! Product, but you know what? It fits, and so we're going to use it. So we're just going to tie this around our watercolor paper here. I'm going to tie a bow, and maybe my bow will disguise my pear that's a little high on the left side. Okay, and we'll trim this. Then I'll style my bow in just a second here, so it's not so goofy looking. All right, sometimes you have to tie them again a second time, like, because it's kind of got a kink in it. So if I can't get that out, I want it a little smaller. I know you're thinking, she's doing a smaller bow. Yes, and the reason is because these pears are fairly delicate. So I don't want to upstage the pears with a twine bow. Okay, and then we'll even these up. Okay, and you know, by the time you put something on a card, you have to restyle it anyway. Okay, let's bring in our wild wheat that's already been pre-scored. And I'm going to put my paper on here. And I'm just going to kind of fold these up, all these edges. Okay, just get it going. And then we'll wiggle our piece of paper inside. So I like this. It kind of creates kind of a shabby, distressed little frame. Okay. So see how that just kind of creates a little bit of a tray-like, and then we'll just set this piece right inside, and we get kind of a dimensional mat. It's kind of fun. Sometimes if you want to clip the corners out, then you could really bring it up and square it off if you wanted. But, okay, I'm using quite a bit of glue because it's a heavy paper and I've got that twine in there. So just get in there right on those score lines. Okay. And we'll just wiggle this up like so. And then this becomes our focal point on our card. Oh, Jacqueline, she's watching. Okay, so I do want to trim this down. So by the time you fold this up, more of that shows, okay? You also could go this way if you wanted. Both would be great. Let's put this one on. Let's mount this. This looks better on that side. So just a real fast. This is just gonna go straight across. We've just got a nice block of Lost Lagoon color here. Okay. How, for those of you who have seen the new in colors, do you have a favorite? Of course, I can't see any comments. Do you have a favorite? If so, which one? And I can't ask you guys, should I do the plaid side or the wheat? We're gonna do the wheat, but I'm gonna trim this down. I am going to take an 1/8 inch off of both sides just to tighten it up just a little bit more. That way I see a little bit more of the Lost Lagoon and the pebbled path. Okay, so we'll take this. And to me, this does not need dimensionals because there's so much, the paper has a weight to it, a physical and a visual. And then our faux frame kind of has that too. So we'll just kind of wiggle this into place. I'm gonna have to restyle my bow. It's driving me crazy. It may be a little heavy. I probably should have just done. Watch this. Okay, well, we're gonna let that set up. I'm gonna take this piece. Is this piece long enough to go all the way around and have a bow? I think so. Okay, here, I'm gonna show you something. When you change your mind, this is how I'm gonna get my thread behind that. So I'm going to deconstruct this and pull out the whites. Okay, so we're just gonna take this and get all of these. So break it down, whichever one you have. Let's just get it to where, let's get those colors, kind of group those. Okay, and I'm gonna give a pull. This is a heavier twine than some of our baker's twines that we've had. So it's taking a little more to get it to come undone, but it will. You just kind of have to help it out. But what I'm gonna do is get this apart, right? And I'm going to tie it. There we go. Okay, so question of the hour, is that color or this color? I think I'm gonna do the white. Okay, but these are pretty. All right, so take your thread that you didn't wanna use, and I'm gonna tie a knot on this end. Okay, I'm gonna tie a square knot so it won't come undone. Can I tell you how many times I've done this this is not a first time. So I've got that there. Now I'm just gently gonna pull. Got to get that knot in there. Luckily, I didn't have a ton of glue there. And just like that, look at that. Then we'll untie this and retie. I just felt like this was just too heavy. It was taking over from my pears. And the pears are what's, that's what we're all about here on this card. Okay, Oh, much more better, don't you think? Did you see that? Was that some slick craft in there? Okay, let me bring this way just a little bit. Okay, much better. It's easier to tie. I can feel already it's going to cooperate. And there you have it. Okay. I think this would be, in my mock-up, I actually did it with linen thread. Okay. We'll just give that a little pull. Don't forget, you know, you're going to have to style your bows. Also, if you're taking pictures, make sure your bow is styled in your photos too. So see, this one's having its own, doing its own thing. Okay, so I like to come in here, now that I've got that, and I like to just kind of crinkle and distress this a little bit, really kind of roll it, have some fun with it, get it to snuggle up against that. And it's just kind of fun. You see, can you see that dimension in it? I think it's cool. And my stupid bow is being a... See, it just wants to, excuse me, it just wants to twist. All right, so I'm going to clean up my ends here. And let's mount this. And we have kind of, you know, it's what I call, it is mailable, but it's just kind of different, you know. It's a different approach to a card design. Doing a little bit of some water wicking type of a technique. It's pretty. You should see it in real life. It really is pretty. And of course, we're going to bring it to life with a little wink right here. Okay, we'll just get each of these pairs. Oh my goodness. It just, the watercolor underneath looks so pretty. To bring those out. See that? Oh! We'll flick there, and then let's get a little bit of, let's bring out the peacock just a little bit more to bring in our greeting and our Lost Lagoon. And just like that, we have a beautiful card doing kind of a different type of technique there. This is going to get shrunk down, and I'm telling you, you are going to obey what I want you to do. Now, we could add some pearls to this, but I kind of feel like they don't need it, you know? I just feel like it doesn't fit the vibe, so I'm not going to add them, you know? They don't have to be on everything. So what do you think of that technique? I think it's fun. We got a couple techniques here. We've got the a little bit of a faux frame, and then we have our watercolor wicking. Kind of cool, kind of different. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, now the last card that we're going to do today. Oh man, I just dropped my card base around the corner. It's a pretty peacock base. It is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. We are going to start with making a couple slips. And so I'm going to put the right side of my card here at 1 inch. And let me move this up so you can see. I do have my cutting blade here, and I'm going to cut right up to the score line, okay? We are making a kickstand card. I haven't done a kickstand card in a long time, so I thought, now's the time. Let's bring it back. And so then this side here, we're going to put the left side at 2 inches, okay? So we're going to put it at 2 inches, and this one was at 1 inch. So from the left side, it's at 2 inches. From the right side, it was at 1. Okay. Whoops, didn't go quite all the way. You need to make sure you get it all the way to the top. Okay, so now I'm going to take this piece of designer series paper, and we're going to trim it to be 4¼ by 5. I've got some extra paper here in the track there we go, clean some of that out. I actually want it to be 4¼ by 5, but I need it to be just a skosh shorter. It needs to be 5½ wide, but because it's going to tuck underneath, we need to take a hairline off. So I'm just taking a hairline off. I'm not quite 4¼ and then we're going to go by 5½. 5½, we definitely want it to be 5½, but I'm going to go this way. I have a harsher edge there. So harsher meaning I can feel it's been cut there. There we go. Okay, save these. You never know when you're going to want to use them. All right, so here is my piece, and this piece here, so right now my card is kind of flimsy and whatnot, but if I bring these two in and this one up, okay, so I'm just going to kind of bring that, and you're going to add your designer series paper is going to come and it's going to bridge these two pieces together. But before I bridge this, I am going to make this be a pocket. So I am going to put just a little bit of an engagement notch right there. Okay. Now I can put this on. When I put this on, I am going to put my glue on this piece. That way I know I'm not going to have glue in the wrong spot, right? So let's see here. Where's my glue? I'm going to glue this piece down. This one doesn't matter. So we'll get this one on. Nice. This one I'm going to glue because I want it to be a pocket. I'm going to do the top and the bottom and then the left side. Okay. And that will help us to form that pocket. So now this piece is going to bridge everything together. And now what this does is this gives us, instead of a front and an inside, it gives us a card front. This is the second card front right here. And then this will be our inside. And the beauty of it is we get to see a little bit more of this designer series paper. Okay, so there's our front. So do you see why we had to take a little bit of a skosh off of that? Because if it had been a true 4¼ this would be sticking out or this would be buckling. So there you have it. So this is the kickstand. So now we have kind of 3 pieces to this card. And it could be that we do it this way, but I'm actually I've designed the card to go this way. And I've got glue on stuff. Okay, so let's go to that second piece of watercolor paper here, and we're going to cut a piece that's going to fit this section here, and it's going to be 2 3/8. Okay, so it's going to be 2 3/8 inches wide by 4 3/8 inches tall, and that'll give us a nice 1/16 inch border all the way around on the pretty peacock layer right there. And I can't measure. That was 5/8 and not 3/8. Yep, sorry. 4 1/8. It is 4 3/8. It needs to be 4 1/8. I'm a little bit wackadoo there. Guess what? Jacqueline is watching. That popped up again. I think when somebody makes a comment, instead it just says Jacqueline is watching. Okay, got a little glue action right there that I got to get off. All right, so this piece is going to go right in there. All right, so let me just give you that measurement one last time since I was a little bit like goofy and silly. It is 2 3/8, okay, because this is the peacock is 2.5. So 2 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then that fits in there with that 1/16 of an inch all the way around, okay? So we're going to stamp this and some other things as well. We're going to do kind of a lot of stamping. And we're going to do some similar stamping as we did on the first card, but similar but different. And I'm trying to figure out where the glue is coming from. It's right here. When in doubt, give it a rub. And then use an adhesive remover. So I gave it a rub so I could see where it was. You know, just goes to show you how clean my hands are. They've got glue on them. Okay, there we go. All right. Now I have a cleaner space to work on. All right, so let's see here what we're gonna do. We're gonna stamp this piece. Actually, we're gonna stamp this in a minute. We're gonna be working on some other stuff first. So let's go ahead and with this piece, let's bring the saddle brown back. So we're gonna do some watercolor just like we did on the first card. So we need to stamp the pear. I'm gonna fully stamp the pear. Okay. Pat, 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 pat. Get it nice and perfect. We'll stamp it down in the corner just like we did. Really let it sit there to really get into the fibers of this cardstock. Get a nice solid clean image. There's that. Now I'm going to do a little bit more stamping on here. This is the floral image and I'm not worried about, I just want this blossomy top stuff. Okay, blossomy, is that a word? We'll just do them over here. We'll give a piece there. And I want 3 of these. And yes, I'm gonna have to fussy cut these out, but they're not too bad. Okay, these are not too bad to cut out. So yeah, and unfortunately I can't read comments to at least like have something to say. So I'll have to think of something profound in a minute here to say. So let's give this a watercolor. Let's bring the palette back in. And I'm gonna bring my water back. Okay. And let's just color the pear kind of like we did last time. I'm gonna come in here. Well, I'm gonna give it just a quick wash of yellow. Usually I like to do it with just plain water, but we'll give it a quick wash of yellow. Okay. Let that work down into the fibers there. And then we'll give a quick wash. And this time I think I'm gonna do a little bit of Lost Lagoon. We'll do a quick wash of color. If you go out of the lines, not to worry, we're gonna cut this out. Okay. Let's just put a layer of Lost Lagoon in there. And since we're in Lost Lagoon, let's just get these leaves in here. Okay. And I may not do as much layering of color in this one as I did in the last. Okay. And I'm going to do just a haze of wild wheat. I do not want this to be very dark at all. Just doing a light, soft layer of color in these leaves. And you can see how it pulled a little bit of the Lost Lagoon, but that's okay if it did, because you can always come in and give it a little bit of a blot. But I really didn't want these to have a whole lot of color to them. So let's do just a little bit more lagoon in these. Kind of let that water carry that around just a little bit. And if I need to blot here or there, just kind of move that. Let the water do the work. Okay. What's really fun is if you have more time is just to really layer in lots of pretty color. And maybe come in with a little bit of old olive on these. Okay, and I'm just giving just a haze of color because I really kind of want these little flowers to pop and have more of a white look to them, if that makes sense. Okay, so we'll let those dry. Let's see how this is doing. Maybe kind of blot just a touch of this, especially right here on the front of the pear. And we'll come in and just start kind of layering in some green. Just like we did last time. You know, I think a really pretty red pear too. Red and brown. I don't know what flavor that is. But just kind of come across and get that color going. Maybe add just a little bit in some of these darker areas where the crosshatch is. That was a little Lost Lagoon. add a little bit more color in here. Let me paint this. And then let me get some intense Lost Lagoon and just kind of touch and let that water carry some of that color. Okay, we'll kind of let that do its thing for a minute. Kind of move this around. Build the color up. Do a little bit of, okay, just kind of keep doing that. Have some fun. Okay. This one as well. I'm just going to direct it just a little bit. Cool. I got a big old drop right there. I think I'm going to try and get just a little bit more color into these leaves. I'm going to try and tie in that Lost Lagoon just a little bit more. Oh, that was a lot. I will blot. Okay. Wow. That's the beauty of just kind of coming in. Yeah. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Okay, we're going to need to cut those out. I'm going to let them dry for just a second while we work on this piece. They're not that wet. They won't take as long, but let's do some stamping here. We're going to stamp the pear twice, just like we did on the first card. However, in a slightly different, we're still going to layer them to the way we did, but slightly different. So here goes this whole piece. And so we're going to make this pear kind of be front and center on our card here. Okay, I'm just really trying to get it all juiced up. And I'm going to come down just a little bit. So like I say, I'm just about front and bottom heavy, because the top, I want to put my greeting up there. So again, this is watercolor paper. I've got to let this ink really get down and into all the fibers of the paper. Okay, that's nice. All right, we're going to stamp again right over it, only this time I'm going to stamp full strength. If you remember last time, I inked it up and kind of let the weight of the block stamp some of it off. This time we're going to go full out. And this time I'm going to go off the page a little bit. So I am going to kind of angle this like so. And you're going, what the heck is she doing? That is just weird. Okay, not to worry. We're not going to lose our original pear by the time we're finished. But let's use the greeting that says, just a little note, and we'll add this. Get it really inked up. We're going to add this off to the side here, and I think I have to pull this side up just a little bit. It's not totally mounted on my block straight. So hopefully I'm stamping this straight. Okay, again, I'm just letting it get into the paper fibers. Ta-da! Oh, good. I'm glad I kind of cocked it up just a little bit. That was the right thing to do. Okay, I'm not going to do anything with that second pear, but it's this first pear that's going to, we're going to cut that out and put that on top. Okay, and I'm just going to cut it out just like I did that first one. Okay. I'll just kind of come around the corner here. This time I am going to keep the stem of the leaf intact. We'll come around this edge here. Okay, coming around. And then I'm just going to kind of continue. Yes, I'll cut the rest of it off, but okay, it's a little wet right through there, so it's a little tricky to cut, but I will tell it who's boss. I'm going to soften that right there. Okay, so we'll come up in here, get this leaf, and I feel like I could layer in some more color on this leaf, but for time I'm not going to. And yes, I'm going to cut the stem right off. guys, I can glue it back on, but it just makes it easier when you're fussy cutting to be able to get up in here. Here comes the hardest spot right here to really get in there. Okay, and we'll get this other side. Hopefully I'm gonna have to get in there and clean a little bit more of that out. Okay, so there's my leaf and my stem, and that'll glue on here. Okay, let's get rid of this. And set this to the side. I'm going to close this. We don't need this color. Finish doing this. And we're going to shape it just like we did on that first one. You know, once you got a good gimmick, keep it up, right? So we'll just, and I feel like I could build more color up on this one as well. In fact, once I get the card together, and maybe before I photo it, I will build some more color up, just to really get it a nice strong, but for time's sake, you know, that can take a little while by the time you let things dry and layer more color. This one I'm gonna glue. So again, kind of round that pear out just a little bit and then put that right over. See, now there's no problem with that other pear there. Then we will glue this. So let's glue the stem and part of the leaf here. And then I'm just going to kind of give it a little curl and just kind of let it be natural. Kind of let it just do its thing. Okay. See? That looks good. It looks really good. Now, we're going to bring in these pieces here. And we'll just do a quick cut of these. And so this is where I'm like, oh, what to talk about? So I had asked if you had a favorite new in color, if you've seen them. I quite like Secret Sea. It's a nice, deep, rich color, like kind of pretty peacock. Blackberry Bliss, but since I can't see the comments, maybe you are making some. If you are, tell me if you think Secret Sea, is it a green? Is it a blue? Sometimes I look at it and I go, it's green. Kayleen says, it's green, and I agree, it is. Sometimes I look at it and I go, but it looks blue. And then I thought about my mom and my brother, their eyes. I'm like, are your eyes green or blue? Oh, today they're hazel. So it's kind of like, I think it depends what it's by. That's kind of, it's an interesting color, but I love how saturated. It's just a really dark, saturated color. Kind of exciting. So we'll have to see what we'll do with Secret Sea. Okay, so here's my first little blossom. I'm gonna soften that edge just a little bit there. So we're gonna have some flowers on this. You can see I've got to cut a couple more, but after this, there won't be any more fussy cutting. It will all be about stamping and arranging some things. Okay, so another color I really, so Strawberry Slush is making a return. Was an in color, I don't know how many years ago, but I think that's smart of them to bring a color back. They have all of that invested in creating the color. They just need to, bring it back. They did mention that Cloud Cover, which I think sounds like a really pretty color. I haven't really, used it much or at all. I think that Cloud Cover, it's a bummer. The ink, it had shifted. The ink pad color had shifted, so they're not quite ready to release Cloud Cover. Hopefully by the time May comes around for the catalog, it will be ready. But that looks like a pretty cool color as well. A very natural bluish gray. Definitely more gray than blue, but it's called Cloud Cover. Kind of cool. So, anyhow, in the comments, let me know if you have a new in color that you're like eager to use. The Darling Duck I could do without. I mean, I like my wild wheat, and maybe I'll grow to love Darling Duck like I have wild wheat. It's just not my favorite yet. It may get there though, so we'll see. All right, also in Raleigh, Marcia, if you are watching, Julie and I walked over to Vic's, and that was a good recommendation. Our waiter was a kick. We had a good time with him. But the food was great. I had the penne alla vodka. Oh, so good. So tasty. And just a little walk. It wasn't that far away. It was kind of fun. I also kind of joked around, but Cheeto Taco was across the street from our hotel. I could have gone there every day because I'm a taco kind of girl. Chips and guac, chips and salsa, chips and queso. I'll take them all. And they had them all, and they were good. So, all right. There's my fussy cutting. Yay! All right, let's kind of start to put some things together here. Well, before I put this together, let me bring my scratch paper back in. And just kind of hold these here. They're not totally set where they're going to go, but they're going to kind of go in that general area. Let's go ahead and bring back that technique. I'm going to get my water painter wet. I'm going to bring the lid in, get my palette here, and I'm going to do the Lost Lagoon again. Kind of tying back to my Pretty Peacock. I could use Pretty Peacock, but I didn't bring that refill with me. To me, Lost Lagoon, Pretty Peacock, they're sister colors, right? So I'm going to use the lid for some lighter splatters. Okay, can you see those happening there? Of course, the real good ones end up off the page. Wouldn't you figure? Okay, let's get kind of, oh yeah, that was a good one. There are some good ones. Good, good, good. All right, so try using the edge of your water painter. It's just kind of a different look. Just a little bit different. Let's bring in that brown again. This is the bronze. And we'll do a little of this just to give us some depth. Okay, and I did that just gently. And of course, we'll do some Stella there. But let me let that dry for just a second, and we'll add that in here. In your smalls bag, we have some pieces we're going to use. And I never know what we're going to use. I'm not sure that I'll use the flowers in there. As I was playing around with them, I'm like, they're just too big for this design. So you have some flowers for another project. But you have a piece of wild wheat, and you have a circle here. So we are going to do, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to place the circle down here. Okay, and I'm making sure it's in line right here. And I am going to gently, I'm not going to trace the whole thing, but I'm just going to kind of do some lines here so I know where. Oh, guess what? Comments still aren't showing up, but I got another notification that Jacqueline is watching. It's a little funny. I can't even see my pencil mark over here. So I will do it again. Okay, that's better. So I just have some light pencil marks so I can see where I need to be doing some stamping. Okay, and let's stamp this first. So just a little note, and then my inside will say, I could say it's your day, but no. It's going to say thanks for being you. And I'm going to stamp that in the saddle brown, which I said we were done with, but you know me. I'm always quite off when I say we're done with it. Okay, and we're just going to take this right in the center. Okay, just easy, easy, easy. Okay, and we'll take this. We had a few ink splatters left there, so I have just a little bit of the Lost Lagoon there. I don't know if you can see it right in here. It's very faint. Let's grab some of this. I got to grab a drink, folks, or I'm going to have a cough attack. It's like it just gets in the back of my, if the back of my throat gets dry, I just have to cough, and I don't want to. All right, so there's that. And I'm going to take the this image, and I'm going to kind of create a pretty border around this circle. So clean this up. Give that a good clean. And I'm going to start with Pretty Peacock. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to layer a bunch of images, and it's going to look weird because we're going to have all these stems, but they're going to end up in the center here, and they're going to get covered. So let's just do, and I'm going to reach this one way out, because you see if I do this one way out here like that, when I shut this, it peeks through nicely, okay? So it's all about having something that's behind there, but then when you lift it, you get another message or something. Okay, so there's that one. Now I'm going to do another one kind of up over here. Okay, so see, I know that the stem is inside, but see a little bit of it peeks. Now this one over here, we'll have it peak just a little bit more. We'll do one down here. Okay, again, nice. Now I'm going to fill in, let me do one more in the Pretty Peacock. I'm going to do one more a little bit lower, kind of right in here. Okay, and I'm going to clean this out, and I'm going to switch to Lost Lagoon. Just so we've got a little bit of, you know, a little depth. It doesn't have to be the exact same color all the way around. So we'll go to that sister color, or that buddy color, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and I'm just going to pick up some more of that. So there's Lost Lagoon, and we'll fill a little bit of it in right here. And one more right in there. And let's see, I'm not sure if I'm going to do one there or not. Let's just see what it looks like when we bring the circle back in. Okay. And I'm also going to have a strip of wild wheat in here. Kind of breaks that up just a little bit. I feel like I'm going to put just a little bit more right in there. And I'm going to let this be free of any, just to give your eye a rest. So let's just do just a little touch right in there, okay? That might not even show. I did it so low, but that's okay. That's okay. Now, before I kind of put all this on, I'm going to come in here and emphasize these flowers with my Wink of Stella. Only do the ones that are outside of your circle line. You don't need to do the ones down in here that aren't going to show. But it's amazing how the Wink of Stella, it is moving the ink just a little bit, not a lot, but it does bringing these flowers out just a little bit more, okay? So, kind of a pretty step. That one definitely shows. So does that one. Okay, so there's that. And then we'll take this, and I'm going to take my thread from here, and we are going to pull some threads out. I'm going to try and get that center color there. So I'm going for that pecan pie. See how you can just grab that? So we're going to take all of that right there. Okay, and it has all these loose fibers, but go ahead and tie them in a bow. Okay, a little uneven right now, totally okay. We'll trim it. Okay, so we have that. Let me trim this other side. Okay, and so this is just going to kind of go in there, in here, and then it's going to shut. And then this one comes on top. So let's just finish this. It's not going to be quite so wild, but let's see here. Let's give this just a little bit more volume. And I'm going to put some Seal Plus to hold this down. Okay. So, and the cool thing is you can kind of just, when you have that Seal Plus, you can kind of just direct your fibers where you want it to be. Now I'm going to put my dimensionals on here for my circle, okay? But the reason I'm going to put them on here is so that I'm not on top of that knot, because that knot gets a little bit uneven and then we get just a little bit of wonkiness, and I don't want any of that. So this is going to, hello, get back here. We'll center this right on here. Okay. And then we're going to glue that to the inside. Where's my glue? I just keep shoving things off to the side. If you saw the side of my counter here, you'd be like, oh boy, she's a mess. Somebody left a comment, you always seem so organized. I'm like, if you only saw what was really going on. All right, I'm not going to push that down. I just want to make sure. I think I might come down just a little bit, even though my pencil line is up there. I'm going to come down just a little bit more, kind of come into this area, and we'll straighten that out. And I will come through. Do I have a sand eraser? I do. I have one. Whoops, there's the pin to unclog my glue. But just right in here, I'm going to, a little bit of that pencil line right there, I'm going to get rid of. Okay, all gone. Very good, very good. Okay, so that just kind of peeks through from the front, which is kind of nice. And then this, we'll glue our flowers on in just a second. This will glue here. This is the kickstand portion. Looks like I need to use that pin on my glue. It's a little stuck. Okay, so this comes on here. Pretty. We have just a little bit of stuff peeking through. Okay. And then we'll finish this off. I'm going to use some minis on this. And I'm going to put them on, because sometimes, again, same thing, I don't want them to collide, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to put this one kind of right about in here. See how that kind of plays off of that? I like that. And then we'll do one down here. So two are close by. And I'm making sure that this one's further in and at a completely different angle. Okay, same thing with this one. And then this one will come over here on this other side. Okay. And again, I'm making sure my leaves and things are always in different directions. Okay. Now, I mentioned before, I'm going to layer up the color just a little bit more before I take the picture. But I am obviously going to come in here and zhuzh these flowers and this leaf up. Oh, I see a comment. And it's not that Jacqueline is watching. She says, what a gorgeous card. But it does say Barbara Campbell is watching. Hello, Barbara. I'm going to come in here and bring this pear to life. And we will stylize it on this layer. We'll open this up. This one's already pretty much stylized, but just something a little bit different. I feel like I could do, and maybe I will, I might stamp a few more of these and add a couple of them here that you don't really see when this is down. So look for the pictures. Also inside here, you know, you could add a layer of vanilla and do some more decorating there, but I didn't do that. I was not expecting to do that. But yes, something just a total, you know, a little bit different. It is kind of fun if you stand it up. You know, you can stand it on its kickstand. But anyhow, it's just kind of a pretty card. But it's a fun way to show off this layout. It's a fun way to show off, you know, that second card, and then to show off your designer series paper, because look how pretty that is from the inside. So yeah, let me see. I have some flowers around here that I've already done. Let me just kind of give you an idea. If I kind of take this one and pop that right there, kind of frame that, thanks. See, it shows a little bit, but not too much. Let's see, I have some more here from my prototype, you know, because we could easily kind of group another one in there with it. And I have one more. This one's really yellow, but maybe this one comes way, tuck it way under in here kind of thing. because I don't want this one to show at all. But I could also take the dimensional off of it. But you get the idea of bringing that color to the inside. I kind of like that. It really makes this good and rich. But maybe bring this in and glue this rather than dimensional that one. I just kind of don't really want to see it over here on this side, so I'm going to have to kind of move it over this way. There we go. So that's my plan. That's how I'll finish it up. But let's see, what have we made today? This bow over here is still twisting and doing its own thing. Okay, so we have our kickstand card, and we have our watercolor wicking card, and we have just, you know, some good old easy layout with some watercolor. Jacqueline says, finally see the comments. So you love that fold. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I've done this quite a few times, and I've done it in different directions and different widths. And it's just kind of fun because you get to kind of play around with more layers. And like I say, kind of, you know, instead of second breakfast, it's second card, right? So I hope you have enjoyed my first mashup class. Also, I'm hoping that you guys will let me know in the comments which day is better for you, May 17th or May 21st, for an all-day studio ink spots. It would be a mini camp with the heirloom arrangements. So that is planned for May. It's going to be fantastic. All right, so it's been fun not being able to chat with you, thanks to no comments showing up until about 2 minutes ago, but it's still been good. I'm glad you've been here, and have a look at this Penciled Pear Stamp Set and have some fun with the with all of the goodness in it. All right, I'll catch you next week for our technique time, which is the Floral Delight. You can still join this class for the PDF. Kits are sold out. So I will see you then. And yeah, we'll have fun. See ya. Bye-bye.